Imagine having a consistent upload schedule. Anyways, I'm back again with the main series you guys have been waiting for, Dark Sonic Part 3. So hopefully my gaining riding is up now, because for this part and the setup for the next part, Part 4, will probably be the finale of the classic saga for the series. And also I might be talking about finally some Patreon and channel membership junk by the end of the video, but I'll leave that for later. So without further delay, this is part 3 of What If Dark Sonic Was Canon, and I hope you enjoy the story. Refocusing back to our story, after the chaotic incident on Angel Island in the last part, we shift our perspective to the loser of the encounter, Dr. Robotnik, angrily patting his clothes down from his rough and hard landing as he paces back and forth, with it now being the 4th time that this meddlesome hedgehog has ruined his plans. Regardless of all his preparation, tricking the native, taking the Master Emerald, and even some of the Chaos Emeralds in his grasp, he still came out with no Eggman land, gritting his teeth of all the times for his nemesis' tag-along to get a backbone. It would be right when his plan was just about to succeed, testing the doctor's pride that he, an IQ of 300, couldn't have realized a chaotic reaction like that would have happened sooner or later. Robotnik began to murder. Of course, Mecha's location sensors aren't responding. Blasted. His data on Sonic's dark power were crucial for my revenge. Maybe I should have just continued with the Metal series as originally planned. Oh well, I can always just... It's with that thought that our antagonist remembers that his spaceship / home base that contained most of his resources in said Metal series was still chilling next to a volcano back on Angel Island. Add the fact that his sensors were telling him that 2 of the emeralds did manage to land where he was at, and the 3rd truly landing back on the surface, he really was gonna have to try and kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Turning back as he recalls the 5 egg robots that were scouting the area, grabbing his tools with a grin as he readies himself to prepare the squad for an even higher purpose. Switching our perspective back to the trio by the Master Emerald, Knuckles had already relayed the little he knew of his people's history, and ironically, Robotnik's studying of the morals had helped to his annoyance in him discovering some of his culture being connected back to this beast known as Chaos. The servers are the 7 Chaos. Chaos is power, enriched by the heart. Does this prayer have to do with how the emeralds are used or something? Maybe emotions? Tails slowly hypothesizes while sitting down, giving himself time to think. All while Knuckles attempts to meditate with Sonic, not really being the type to stand still and being adamant that they should be more worried about getting the other Chaos Emeralds instead. But after further insistence from both of his friends, he sits down and gives it a try. Closing his eyes for a little bit, he tries to focus deep inside himself for the first time, reminiscing on that strange moment when he was talking to himself. Or was it someone else? This spiritual stuff isn't working, Knucklehead. Let's just get a move on already. By now, we could have easily explored the nearby island and got the answers out of Robotnik in record time. Maybe if you actually had patience, we would have discovered something by now. Yeah, like you, the guardian that fought us on first sight with no questions, embody patience. But before anything can escalate, and almost like the universe wanted to prove Sonic's point immediately, what seems like a strange plushy looking robot surrounded with a red prism teleports by the altar, antagonizing our heroes by being close to the Master Emerald, which ends up working pretty well. Knuckles already being gone, yelling and chasing down the robot away like it's a hereditary instinct. Sonic rolls his eyes at the situation, but nevertheless speeds ahead to follow the echidna as Tails takes the Chaos Emeralds with him, eventually leading our unofficial Team Sonic, finding themselves in the forest of Botanic Base Zone on Netronic Island. Slowing down now, Knuckles looks around cluelessly for the machine as it seems the devious looking doll must have hid itself in plain sight. Deciding to split up now to cover more ground, Tails takes flight to look above the trees while Knuckles glides mid-range to look at his blind spots. Sonic by himself now grins, decides to use this opportunity to test this whole chaos energy sensing thing. The other Chaos Emeralds were definitely around here regardless, and they needed to be in safe hands after all. His hands. Sonic then zooms all around the green forest, inadvertently getting better at this whole sensing chaos energy thing, as he can just about feel around this bush that there is an emerald nearby, all of his instincts pushing himself to grab it, but wham! A headbutt in cartoon proportions takes place. Charming, you gotta watch where you're going, you don't just touch every shiny thing you see. Looking up now, our protagonist sees the figure of a childish looking bee and a towering alligator rocking a pair of expensive headphones with a disappointed look on his face. Charmy rubbing the back of his head, complaining to Vector that they're here for treasure hunting after all. If the three of them were gonna open that detective agency he was so hyped about, they needed the money. Pouting that he probably would've just walked past the gym if they kept walking the same direction. Sonic then gets up from his headache, eyeing up the emerald in the hyperactive bee's hand. Initially being cordial, the Hedgehog introduces himself and gruffly asks for the emerald back. The thing wasn't just some random treasure, but sadly, hyperactive isn't the only term to describe Charmy. He's also hard-headed, refusing to give it back like a little kid. Sonic just grins though, with a Flash already having the emerald back in his hand with speedy swagger. Vector's eyes almost pop out like a cartoon character, but before he can do anything himself, suddenly Sonic looks down at his own hands and finds the emerald gone. Almost like it's floating in midair, before a stern but almost virtuous voice speaks up, the ninja of the Choatix trio, Espio the Chameleon, makes his appearance. Leering at the Hedgehog with justice-like tonality as he sticks up for his always more troublesome partner, that since he found the gem first, shouldn't it be fair that he keep it? Coming out of nowhere and vaguely explaining why the emerald was important wasn't gonna cut it, as he tries to de-escalate the situation. But escalating the situation seems to be the only thing on Sonic's mind, as for some reason he just couldn't stand not having the emerald with him. I'm not asking you twice, Chameleon. Before an electrifying spin dash bursts forward, striking Espio, using the momentum to try and forcefully grab the emerald from his hands. But the purple reptile isn't to be underestimated, as he uses his ninjutsu to have the emerald stick to his hand continuously, while the other hand quickly forms hand signs to summon two clones to kick the Hedgehog out of his grasp. This loud impact finally alerts Tails and Knuckles on the ongoing commotion, as it isn't long until we find ourselves seeing a 3v3 battle royale going on against Team Sonic and Team Choatix, with Tails taking on Charmy and Knuckles Vector. In the midst of the scuffle though, Knuckles tries to angrily yell at Sonic to calm down while dodging a bite from the alligator. It isn't until Tails shrieks himself at the Hedgehog that he notices that even without thinking, he was in that dark form again, just when he was about to throw a devastating kick towards Espio. Sonic steps back, wondering as he looks at his quills on why he changed so easily. But before getting a chance to realize why, a red beep whirls as a yellow flash surrounds each opposing group. Everyone, and especially Tails, are shocked when they look up to see a plush, robotic version of the sidekick floating up in the air with an emotionless look on his face that could be used for some interesting stories. The speaker from the plush communicates that
plan is success, enemies tethered and given the slip per plan A.
Knuckles, not thinking though, and having enough of robotic copies lately, jumps in to fight, but is then slammed right back to the ground with force. Looking down at his glove, it was forcefully clutching some sort of weird ring that was connected to another ring that annoying bee was holding. Knowing the situation was now in his favor, the Tails doll radiates a signal, alerting three of the newly formed hard-boiled heavies that pull up in a helicopter to snatch the 5th Chaos Emerald before launching a missile as a goodbye, blasting away our heroes almost to a carnivalistic location, beaming of Robotnik's advertising and other cringy slogans, temporarily forming a truce because if any of them were going to have any chance of finding that 5th or even 6th Chaos Emerald, they were going to have to work together. Even with how strange some of these new pairings were, allowing us to finally transition to this Mania-fied version of Knuckles Choatix. Starting in the world entrance stage that serves as the main hub for the island, with some weird roulette wheel taking place to determine where to go, our tethered team is surprised when the transportation roulette is guarded by some sort of strange robot named Bomb. Attempting to pose threatening, but after Knuckles and Charmy step forward with intention to break it apart, it scarily explodes and then regenerates, knocking down the two in cartoon faction. Eventually, Vector finds out from the robot that it's been feeling rather low. Ever since his higher-ups, the Heavies, have been here, he's lost where his robotic best friend Heavy has been. So then, with a sense of pride, the crocodile assures that this will be an easy task for the world's best upcoming detective agency. Like on cue and the model they follow, the members of the Choatics drag their Team Sonic counterparts to the stage selected to find such a friend and the Chaos Emeralds, as each duo is rocketed away to a different part of the island. Shifting to where Knuckles and Charmy landed, it was really starting to get to the Guardian's head of how annoying this elastic bond gimmick was. The dang bee Charmy couldn't just sit still, buzzing away his sanity both figuratively and literally across Botanic Base Zone. The bee agonizingly pointing out every little detail of their surroundings, all while he plays planks and really presses the echidna on his naivety, generally starting to ask what role the bee even plays in his team. The scouting capabilities of the bee is made apparent, zooming ahead while dragging Knuckles in the process. The eventual trail of huge steps in oil ends up leading back to what seems to be the robot Heavy. Look out! With wind-breaking speed, missiles are fired from the helicopter contraption of Heavy Gunner, as the duo moves around to catch the lost robot themselves before it gets caught in the crossfire. Gliding across and punching the missiles back to its originator, Charmy's overzealousness almost gets the duo surrounded by the obstacle if it wasn't for Heavy using his defense to cover both of them. Having gained some respect for the echidna for the same boxing skills that he practiced himself, it isn't long until Heavy Gunner is utterly destroyed by a Dempsey roll between both fighters, as Charmy cockily ends the robot with a flick of his finger, the trio celebrating like a bunch of lost brothers, but sadly leading them to never being able to guess the real danger behind them. Switching gears back to Sonic and SP on Techno Tower, already finding the 6th Emerald in the zone, the original resentment between the duo has begun to die down, the Chameleon now seeing himself that the Hedgehog also stood up for justice, but just in a more undisciplined manner. This allows for the duo to sharpen each other's skills a little bit, the Chameleon being pushed towards his affinity for speed with Sonic as his partner, but the Hedgehog himself getting at least a bit of a better understanding of this whole meditation thing. But Sonic still believes it's not really worth his time. Just standing still was against his nature. SPO grunts in response that anything worth something takes time, noting his experience as the Choatic's investigator towards that point, especially pointing out with Sonic's whole dark energy thing that he needed to take this stuff more seriously, asking for the Hedgehog to hand over the emerald to him to prove the point. Just when Sonic is about to follow, even with him almost having to resist all his instincts to not do it, suddenly a mace is thrown out between the duo, stretching the tethering beyond his capabilities as they try to move out of the way, which leaves the perfect opportunity for Heavy Magician to swoop over and take the emerald by force. But Sonic switches up and spin dashes the hat away, all bouncing back to the ground where the Magician and his partner Heavy Rider with his confident looking Motobug prepared to scrap. As with a white flash, the Magician transforms into Amy. SPO, not really getting the reaction, dashes forward regardless, using his invisibility to get a critical hit on the imposter. But an Amy that knows what to throw hands isn't to be messed with, as the imposter almost pummels the Chameleon with his own fake hammer, almost tripping also as the rumbling ground of Heavy Rider Akira slides over to SPO with a successful mace strike, knocking the ninja back to his partner. Upon getting up, the Chameleon urges the Hedgehog should not fight with his emotions, noticing that the two rotund robots were more interested in targeting the speedster than himself. Like a sign of confirmation, the Tails doll makes his appearance known again, responding with his squeaky microphone that always makes sense to take down the most dangerous one first. Very curious on what makes the blue idiot so inspirational to his cop, Sonic bristles at this fact, throwing himself in another spin dash while dragging SPO in the process. Just when he was about to hit his mark, bingo. Immediately, paralyzation is felt by both of our heroes, and then with an emotionless look like he saw this coming, the plush uses his telekinesis to send the duo back to the ground, where the two heavies quickly knock them out for safekeeping. The plush doll then commands them to take the two back to where the rest were located. Initiate the extractor. He wanted to see if his own intelligence surpassed his inspiration. Meanwhile, Tails, Vector, and Bomb have found themselves right back to the world entrance stage, finding out nothing on their trip to Speed Slider Zone, even though Bomb did have a great time on those roller coaster rides. Tails, in a little bit of fear, tries to think about every little possible outcome of what could have happened to everyone else, when Vector comes to a realization that blows his mind. Just straight up walking up to Bomb and realizing that isn't he just another Robotnik robot? Asking the guy straight up if he knows where this secret base of operations the evil doll is hiding in is. And with a "oh yeah," the little robot starts walking towards a different direction, Tails looking dumbfounded while Vector follows with glee, showing his own detective skills of just asking basic questions coming through for the squad. Arriving at the designated area, Tailsdale and the two heavies are appalled when they see the trio just casually walk into their lab. The rest of our heroes being held down in what seems to be an extractor machine. The extractor machine being able to use any ability of anyone that was trapped in the extractor. Finally meeting face to face, the excitement coming from the robot couldn't be any higher as he dashes forward with his jewel changing from red to blue, shrieking, "Can you feel the sunshine?" Tails meets him with a spin dash but is overpowered easily as the jewel's adaptation of sonic speed too much for him to handle. As it shifts to red though, Vector meets the attack with a hard tackle of his own, pushing both fighters back as he still gears over to Tails, beginning to change himself into an Espio-like tornado as he does devastating damage to the fox, but Vector steps back with another attack towards the feral creature. Tails knew he was the only one that could think of a plan to get them out of this, finally being given some time to think, but then thinking about the psychology of his copy, he gets an idea. Shouting out at Bomb to get in between their tether ring while him and Vector kept running forward. The ring tether starts to stretch to its limit as they keep both running forward as it wraps around Bomb like a pillar. Refusing to let this slide, Tails Dolls orders the heavies to stop the duo from running. Heavy Rider and Magician begin to pummel the Fox and Crocodile from proceeding further as the plush himself uses his invisibility to appear behind Bomb, not getting how such a lowly Robotnik creation could be useful for such a dumb strategy. In synchronization though, our duo endures the pain because they both know that the little guy only reacted one way towards fear, immediately causing the ring tether to split. With all the leftover momentum, Tails and Vector attempt to fly off, but Tails doesn't have the same energy as the crocodile, only doing half as much damage to their respective robot, while a green streak flies over to the extractor machine, blowing it up in the process. Finally, we're out of that thing. Good tackle, Vector. Yeah, I didn't know a fat guy like you could do so much damage. Sonic and Knuckles though notice the situation isn't over yet as the smoke clears, the sight of Tails and the 5th and 6th Chaos Emerald all being wrapped in a telekinetic hole. Everyone else besides the exhausted Vector prepared for one last rumble. But before any scrapping can be done, a red Robotnik alarm blares throughout the room. Sonic, not wanting to be fooled by the doll again, steps forward to still fight anyways. The rumbling of the ground though changes his mind. Like a protocol's been initiated, the two heavies and Tails doll immediately escape into egg pods of their own in sudden haste. Even with a robotic makeup, the sense of panic clearly shown on their faces was apparent. Knuckles doesn't hesitate though, begins to bury a tunnel out of there for everyone to get out, while Sonic grabs an exhausted Tails with a fist bump of acknowledgement. By the time everyone's outside, the reason for the earthquake was made apparent, as the gigantic figure of the Death Egg spaceship finally leaving Angel Island was there for everyone to see. But for some reason, Sonic and Knuckles can sense that there wasn't just any ordinary energy coming out of that ship. It wasn't the Aster Emerald, and for sure wasn't the 4 other Chaos Emeralds with them. What was it? A plan was set, Sonic and Tails immediately beginning preparations to embark on the tornado. He wasn't gonna let Robotnik get away this time. The two already blasting off in altitude before any help can even be offered. The Echidna Warrior wasn't gonna go anyway, as he did leave the Master Emerald alone for too long, but he wouldn't be lying if he said he wasn't worried about them because he definitely had a bad feeling about this, as the Choatics themselves hesitate on what they want to do. We now cut toward a brutal imagery upon the Death Egg. The barely functioning shells of Metal Sonic, Silver Sonic, Heavy King, and Heavy Ninja all laid upon the metal floor, defeated, while the figure of a familiar enemy with a dark and metallic sheen clutches the Phantom Ruby in his hand, as his ambition of no longer just being a mere Sonic copy was just about to be proven to himself, knowing his pitiful creator had definitely called for backup. And that backup had 2 of his emeralds with him. All he needed to do himself was get that last one that was located in Station Square. As unbeknownst to both Sonic nor his evil incarnation, the last 7th Chaos Emerald, the one that fell towards the surface after the Angel Island showdown, was discovered by someone we should all be familiar with. Because whether she knew it or not, the innocent Amy Rose was now the current target of, without question, the most powerful mechanized evil force the world has ever seen. As we'll be seeing in the next part of how such a rise happened, as this is where I'll be dropping our story off for right now. Yeah, I told you I was gonna start picking up things for this part and the next one. Like, who's out here covering Knuckles Choatix in any of their stories? Anyways guys, now that I can say on the microphone, I really want to heavily thank you guys for the new support since the dumb April Fool's video I made. I've finally reached over 1 million views on total, man. That's crazy. I especially want to give thanks to God for this blessing, because there's no way a dumb hobby channel like this for spry animating and talk about Mario, Sonic, Goku gets this far. So I gotta make sure I keep up with this whole apologetic study grind I've been on lately, so I know how to, defend the word better. But that's not the only thing I wanted to go over before the video ends. I don't want those 4 years to be taken lightly since I've been doing it for that long now. So finally, I now have a Patreon and channel membership on this channel that I want to quickly go over really quick. I know y'all have probably heard this 1,000 times, but a man getting paid like what, $100 per season of the year is not cutting it, especially with this effort. So to quickly go over this, we got the first tier, I Am, on both YouTube and Patreon. It's the basic shout out at the end of the video, being able to access videos at least a day earlier or more than anyone else. And maybe when I get time, I'll put even those emojis with the custom art I got commissioned too. But the main part I wanted to go over was the second tier, the one and only. Here's where it gets a little interesting, just like the other YouTubers be having, where they have an exclusive series for Patreon or channel memberships. I want to do the same thing. I think I have a pretty interesting idea, and with it being Sonic related also, so I know y'all will like that. I'll probably discuss it more another time, but eventually I'll have an exclusive series going on for there. So if you guys want to help a melanated brother in Christ out or business, it's all up to you. Like, if you gotta save your money, man, save your money, because you see these prices, man. Look at this. Dang, man, bro. This is why I'm glad I'm raised on emulation, bro. I do not care about no modern consoles, bro. I would go back to my hacked Wii with such speed. But hey, man, that's all I mostly have to say. College semester is still up, but almost done. I might be even potentially taking a little bit of a break to make sure I don't get burnt out like I did with spry animating. So I might be hopping back on my second channel to go back on game reviews to talk about a certain cool math game, if you guys are interested. Next What If back on here will probably be What If Krillin Became Kami Part 2. And may God bless you guys. And make sure y'all pray for me, bro. I'm trying to get them verses and Romans memorized.
Select your fighting style.